May 3rd, 1945, Shuri Village, Central Okinawa. The air was thick with smoke and dust. Wooden beams groaned under the weight of shattered masonry as a young mother, Sachiko Miyagi, held her 4-year-old daughter close. 20 minutes had passed since the last American artillery barrage, yet their home had become a tomb. Through what used to be the kitchen window, Sachiko could hear voices, men speaking English. To her, that sound meant terror. For months, military police had warned civilians what would happen if the American demons ever reached them: torture, humiliation, and death. She pressed her hand over her daughter's mouth to keep her quiet, her heart pounding against the silence. Then, something impossible broke through the rubble. A male voice, strained and unfamiliar, called out in broken Japanese, "Dereka, imaska, taskemas. Is anyone there will help you?" Sachiko froze. Help was not what she expected. When Private Danny Kowalski from Detroit crawled through the debris, she thought her final moment had come. But instead of raising a weapon, he lifted the beam, pinning her leg, and carried her daughter to safety. He came back for her, shielding them both as machine gun fire cracked overhead.
But the aid post is right up ahead.
In that moment, everything Sachiko believed about her enemy began to collapse, just like the house around her.
Oh my goodness.
For civilians who had been taught to expect slaughter, the first shock of defeat was not death. It was kindness. Before the Americans ever reached Okinawa, the fear had already arrived. For months, Japanese civilians were told the same story again and again, that American soldiers were not human. Radio broadcasts, school lessons, even children's songs all carried one message: the enemy is a monster. From Tokyo to the smallest island village, propaganda spread like wildfire. Officials warned that capture meant unthinkable horror, that American soldiers would torture, enslave, and defile anyone they found. Teachers drilled it into their students: better to die than to be captured. Posters and loudspeakers repeated the same command: suicide was honorable, surrender was treason. Villagers were handed grenades, knives, and bottles of poison. Families practiced dying together rather than being taken alive.
Hallowed be thy name.
By the time the fighting reached Okinawa, this fear had become stronger than reason. Mothers whispered to their children about the American devils who killed for pleasure. Fathers sharpened blades, convinced that mercy was a lie. When U.S. troops finally landed, many civilians didn't run toward safety, they ran toward cliffs. The Japanese government's final weapon wasn't made of steel or gunpowder. It was belief, a belief so deep that it could turn ordinary people into willing victims of their own nation's lies. And as American forces moved through Okinawan villages, they would soon discover the full cost of that deception, not in battle, but in the faces of those who no longer knew who to trust.
Finally come to their doorstep, bringing with it the taste of ash and the certainty of sorrow.
When American troops finally reached the outskirts of Okinawan villages, they expected another fight. What they found instead were ghosts, families hiding in cellars, children buried in debris, and homes turned into silent graves. The soldiers had been trained for combat, not for this. They had seen fanatical Japanese soldiers fight to the last breath, but nothing prepared them for civilians so terrified they could not cry. As Marines and infantrymen moved cautiously through the ruins, they discovered scenes that would stay with them for life. Entire families lying together hand in hand, victims not of battle but of fear. Some had poisoned themselves. Others had jumped from cliffs before the troops ever arrived. To the Americans, it was a tragedy beyond comprehension. They had come with orders to protect civilians, yet their very presence had driven them to despair.
Did you see anyone else?
Letters from the front tell the same story. Corporal Bobby Martinez from San Antonio wrote home, "We found them everywhere, old folks, women, kids hiding in basements. Some tried to die rather than be caught. We had to move slow and gentle just to show we weren't going to hurt them." For the soldiers, every door they opened carried the same question. Would the people inside attack or take their own lives? And for the civilians, every shadow in an American uniform looked like death itself. This was not the war either side had imagined. In the ruins of Okinawa, both soldier and civilian were trapped in the same tragedy, victims of a fear neither of them had created. April 1945. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of smoke and fear.
Is anyone alive in here?
American
Call out if
patrols
you can hear
began
us.
moving through ruined villages, searching not just for enemy soldiers, but for survivors. The first encounters were fragile. Civilians trembled behind shattered walls, expecting brutality. The Americans, unsure how to approach without causing
Everything
panic,
is
learned to
going to be
move
all right.
slowly, rifles lowered, voices soft. What happened next was not taught in any field manual. Some soldiers set down their helmets and crawled through debris to reach hiding families. Others shared canteens of water or small pieces of food, holding them out like peace offerings.
Try to keep your
They
weight
learned a
off.
few words of Japanese daijubu,
I appreciate you
friend,
coming out here.
to bridge the silence. At
At
first, no one believed them. Then, one by one, frightened faces began to emerge from the shadows.
It's okay, Mija.
Mothers
Go ahead
carrying
and take
children,
it.
the elderly
good.
leaning on sticks, people who had expected death now looking at men who offered safety. It wasn't
Stay
instant
up ahead.
trust. It
Almost
took
there.
time,
Stick together
patience,
now.
and countless gestures that proved mercy was real.
Keep moving.
An act as simple
and
as a
children to the
soldier
front.
wrapping a bandage or sharing a blanket could undo months of fear.
Here, take the cup.
Every rescued
get some
family
rest.
became living proof that not all enemies were monsters.
Everything is going to be all right.
And as word spread from one survivor to another, the walls of suspicion began to crack. In those moments, small, quiet human, the war changed
Follow the
shape.
path to the white tents.
It wasn't
Water and
about
aid
conquest anymore. It was about reintroducing compassion to a place that had forgotten what it looked like.
After weeks trapped beneath the wreckage, a faint light of hope remained in Sachiko's eyes.
We need more plasma.
As
at
the battle
10-2.
for
Move the
Okinawa
penicillin here
raged,
now.
American
Yes, nurse.
medics found
Right away.
themselves facing a different kind of war, one fought not with bullets, but with compassion. When the smoke cleared, what remained were the wounded, the starving, and the forgotten. Civilians who had spent weeks hiding in caves and ruins now stumbled into the open, dehydrated, infected, terrified.
He's critical. Severe dehydration.
Army medics like Staff Sergeant
Come on,
James
we got 'em
Sullivan had
covered.
been trained to
Try
treat
the water.
combat wounds, gunshots, shrapnel burns. But what he found here went far beyond that. Children with untreated infections. Mothers fainting
okay,
from
you're
hunger.
safe now.
Elderly
Taking care
men
of you.
who hadn't seen clean
Just try to
water in
relax.
days. Sullivan later wrote in his field report, "We gave them what we could, food, water, medicine, but it was clear they'd been suffering for a long time."
Here you go, sir. 1 ml
Every
in
bandage,
water.
every sip
Thank
of
you.
water became more than medical care. It was proof that the American demons could heal instead of harm. Word spread quickly through the
heartbeat is
villages.
strong.
The
She's
soldiers who
doing very
came with
well.
tanks also carried antibiotics, vitamins, and hope. To many civilians, it looked like a miracle.
Over here,
Children
staff.
once burning with fever began to recover.
Clear the way.
The weak could stand again, and for the first time in months, the sound of crying was not from fear, but
Here
from
you go,
relief.
son. It's good chocolate.
The medics themselves changed too. After years of war, after seeing so much death, they were saving lives
Children,
again.
starvation, survival.
And in doing so, they discovered something
much to
unexpected,
unpack
that
here.
mercy, even on the battlefield, could be more powerful than victory. In Okinawa, words often failed, but kindness didn't need translation. American soldiers
Here
struggled
you
to
go.
communicate
Food
with
and water.
civilians
Be
who spoke
careful.
no English. Orders and warnings were useless when fear blocked every sound. So they learned to speak another language, one made of gestures, patience, and simple acts of care. A soldier would kneel down and offer a canteen of water. Another would share a piece of bread or chocolate from his
We
rations.
mean you no harm. Please,
A soft
come with
smile,
us.
a steady
We have
hand,
food and
a small
water.
gift. These became bridges stronger than any words. Among the troops, a few could actually speak Japanese. One of them was Sergeant Robert Yamamoto, a Nisei, a Japanese-American born in California. When civilians saw him wearing a U.S. uniform, they froze. It shattered everything they had been
But he's
told.
wearing the American uniform.
They thought all Japanese in America had been
understand.
killed or enslaved, Yamamoto later said. When they heard me speak their language and tell them my family was safe in the U.S., it changed everything. They realized Americans weren't monsters, they were people. But it was the children who understood first. Their curiosity overcame their fear. They would peek from behind their mother's legs, drawn by the
Here, take
strange
this.
kindness of these foreigners. One little boy, Hiroshi Nakamura, remembered the moment decades later. He was 8, hiding in the ruins of a school when a young soldier approached him. The man smiled, held
Here you
out
go,
a
take
piece
some
of
for your
chocolate,
family.
and waited.
We appreciate
Hiroshi had never seen chocolate before. He took a bite, sweet, unfamiliar, almost magical. He had kind eyes, Hiroshi said, not monster eyes like we'd been told. That small piece of candy became more than a treat. It was proof that truth could survive even after years of lies. And as more children laughed, more adults began to believe. Trust spread not through speeches or orders, but through quiet moments of humanity, a universal language that no war could silence.
Yes, it is. Please make sure you share.
By May 1945, the front lines of Okinawa had turned into chaos, smoke, mud, and broken lives scattered across every street. For many American soldiers, the fighting no longer ended when the shooting stopped. That's when the rescues began. All around them, civilians were trapped in burning buildings and collapsed shelters. The cries for help came from people they had been taught to call the enemy. Yet time and again, soldiers ran toward the danger instead of away from it.
Keep the chain moving.
Private First Class Tony Rizzo from Brooklyn was one of them. He'd grown up in tenement fires and knew how to crawl through wreckage. When others hesitated under sniper fire, Rizzo went in. Yeah, it was dangerous, he later said. But what kind of man walks away from kids who need help? Many of these rescues happened under fire. Bullets snapped through the air as men pulled civilians from rubble, carrying them to safety. Some of the rescuers never came back. Incredibly, there were moments when Japanese snipers' sworn enemies stopped shooting. They could see the Americans shielding women and children. They held their fire, unwilling to kill their own people. For a few seconds, compassion crossed the battle line. Both sides, in their own way, chose mercy. Those moments didn't make it into the official reports. But to the soldiers who were there, they were unforgettable glimpses of humanity in the heart of hell. For a brief, impossible instant, the war paused, not because of orders, but because both enemies remembered they were human. When the gunfire faded, another kind of mission began. The Americans were still soldiers, but now they were also builders, teachers, and caretakers. The villages of Okinawa were nothing but ruins. Homes were flattened, wells were poisoned, and food was nearly gone. The survivors, mostly women, children, and the elderly, faced starvation.
Here you go, stay warm.
So the same troops who
Thank
had
you
fought
kindly.
across the island began to rebuild it. Mess Sergeant Frank Kowalski turned his field kitchen into a lifeline. He ordered extra rice, cooked every night, made soup from canned vegetables, and served it to whoever came, Japanese or American, it didn't matter. It wasn't heroism, Kowalski later said. It was human decency.
I haven't eaten this well.
Soldiers shared their K rations, meat crackers, chocolate, even cigarettes with families who hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Children waited in line for food, laughing for the first time since the bombs fell. Engineers joined in repairing roads and bridges, clearing debris, and restoring water pumps. They even fixed schoolhouses so that teachers could gather children again and remind them what peace felt like. American officers encouraged respect for Japanese customs. They removed their shoes before entering homes.
So the word is,
They bowed to
Cat.
elders. They worked side by side with Buddhist monks and Shinto priests to help bury the dead and comfort the living. To civilians who had expected monsters, this respect was almost impossible to understand. And yet the proof was everywhere in the food they were given in the homes rebuilt in the quiet way soldiers listened when they spoke. Across Okinawa, the unthinkable was happening. The conquerors were helping their former enemies stand again, and slowly trust became stronger than fear. These acts of compassion didn't erase the destruction, but they gave it meaning. Because from the ashes of war, both sides were discovering the same truth. The real victory wasn't about winning the fight. It was about restoring what had been lost humanity itself.
With the homes rebuilt and the smoke cleared, the long wait was finally over.
In the final weeks of the battle for Okinawa, something extraordinary emerged from the ruins. Not just survival, but transformation. The same hands that had carried rifles now lifted the wounded. The same uniforms that symbolized fear now represented protection. And for many Japanese civilians, that contradiction was almost impossible to believe. The Americans had arrived as enemies. They became rescuers, healers, and friends.
Pull that rope tight on the corner.
I wonder if we can
The
sleep
shock
there
of
tonight.
compassion was greater
very
than the
safe.
shock of defeat. For civilians who had been
Take
told
one
the
of these
Americans
pills
were
twice a
monsters,
day,
the
after
sight
you
of a
eat.
soldier risking his
Yes,
life to
doctor,
save a
thank
child
you.
shattered everything they thought they knew about war. Doctors, engineers, and chaplains continued their work long after the fighting ended. Antibiotics, clean water, and rebuilt schools became the first steps toward reconciliation. And slowly, the people of Okinawa began to see a different kind of strength, one measured not by power, but by mercy.
All right, move that section to the left.
Even some Japanese soldiers still hiding in the hills heard what was happening.
This book has many
Rumors
stories.
spread that Americans were treating
here is some
civilians
chalk
with
for you.
dignity, not cruelty. That knowledge did what no weapon could have persuaded them to surrender. For the American troops, the experience left its own mark.
They seem to be
They came
really
home
enjoying
knowing
this
that victory
activity.
meant more than defeating an enemy.
Yes, their
It
pronunciation
meant
is
proving that
excellent
humanity
already.
could survive even in the darkest of wars.
The page. The giraffe found his
Years
favorite
later,
tree.
survivors like Sachiko Miyagi still spoke of
We need to monitor
disbelief
this
not because the
closely.
story
Make
seemed
sure he takes the
false,
full course
but
of
because it
medicine.
seemed too good to be true.
And the next one
That
is ready
kindness
outside.
could rise from destruction.
All right, deep breaths now. It's just a small pinch.
That enemies
you,
could
Doctor.
become
May
protectors.
you be blessed.
That even in war, compassion could endure. From those quiet acts of mercy grew decades of friendship between two nations once locked in bitter conflict.
Side by side, they rebuilt.
And
A
in
symbol
that
of
transformation
enduring
lies the
friendship
deepest
between
lesson of
nations.
Okinawa, that sometimes the greatest courage
It
is
was
not
in
found
these
in the
small
battle to
moments the
destroy,
sergeant
but in the
knew
choice to save.
that the real work of peace was done.
If this story moved you, subscribe to War Stories Untold. Every week, we uncover hidden chapters of history stories of courage, compassion, and the human
craters
heart
once
that
scarred the
refuses to
land.
surrender.
Green
Your support
fields are
helps us keep
returning
these
to
memories
life.
alive.
Here, drink this slowly. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Look, down below! Wow, that is a big boat! I wonder where it came from.
There you go. It should pick up the music clearly now.
It is beautiful. Thank you, soldier.
All right, come on out slowly. Keep your hands high where we can see them. Move towards us now.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
They're just ahead, over that rise.
All right, slowing down now.
Hello, everyone. We have the supplies you need.
The task was monumental, requiring unprecedented cooperation between American and Japanese crews to bring the grid back online.
After the devastation, peace returns to Okinawa. The villages are rebuilt, and peace is slowly returning to this land, where war once raged.
Here, take this. We need to divert the flow to the eastern channel now. Keep the pressure steady.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Here is your package, sir. 1 box per family. Please ensure you sign here for collection.
Just rest now. You're safe here. We'll get you some water.
Push it up, careful now.
Higher on your side.
We need more nails over here. So long, GI. We'll miss you.
Goodbye, kids. Be good.
All right, men, move it out. Keep that line moving. Watch your step on the gangway. Fresh vegetables, cheap today.
How much for the potatoes?
Get your pottery here, handcrafted.
American cranes and steel are helping to rebuild a stronger future from the ashes of conflict.
This agreement marks a new chapter for the reconstruction.
Indeed.
We look forward to the future.
Hi, 次お願いしますね。船の方で。
ありがとうございます。
We gather here today at the foot of our rebuilt castle to remember those lost and to reaffirm our commitment to peace.
Pay close attention to the architecture here. This structure was rebuilt
entirely within the first 5 years.
We hid in the caves for weeks. Every day we thought would be our last.
And the Americans?
They just kept coming. We lost so many.
From the ashes of conflict, Okinawa has risen. These veins of...
It is a pleasure to meet you.
The pleasure is mine. We are so glad you are here.
History remembers kindness.
From the ashes of conflict, hope emerged, painting the horizon with the promise of a lasting peace.